Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We're going to talk about doing something you probably never heard before, and that's blending science with spiritual and energy healing to help release pain within your life and also give you light and move your life forward. And she's very proficient of that. She is all part of the mindfulhealingheart.com. It's a great center that helps a lot of people out. Winnie joins us again on the program. Hi, Winnie. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. I love being here with all the listeners tuning in live and listening to the recording.
Always love talking with you. I'm not just saying this. When I speak, it comes from my heart. You're like a breath of fresh air. Like the sun just came out as soon as you appeared there. And I really mean that.
You know, I really want to take a moment to really thank every person who's either watching or listening to this, because literally you are my Buddha. You know, you guys who are listening to us, it's giving us the biggest gift ever. Think about it. You know, how many times do we tell our children something and they're like, nope, I don't want to talk to you, mom. Or how many times do we talk to our boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and they're like, nope, I don't want to talk to you right now. Or maybe something at work. But to be listened to be received, the totality of Steve and I and the magic between Steve and I, it is such a gift that every single one of the listeners and the viewers are giving us. And I am just so grateful.
I am too. And I don't know how you do what you do, but your energy and positivity is just, it's infectious. It's almost addictive. Like, give me that. I want more of that.
Thank you. That is the result of a lot of shadow work. And it's really funny because I have this free masterclass this Friday, June 17, is at 1 p.m. California time, where I'm from. And the course title is called Complete Self-Mastery, right? Who doesn't want to walk around so that nobody can mess with them and nobody can make them angry or scared? And every time you get triggered, instead of dreading it, be like, oh no, that person has low vibrations. Is, wow, I'm really so excited that I'm triggered, because that is an opportunity to awaken further to my original nature. Yeah. So I'm kind of nerdy. Every time I get triggered, I'm like, okay, let's get to work. Let's meditate on whatever I am feeling. And I'd like to share actually. So last night, I have really Asian parents and they really love you so much. And you know, when parents really love you, they ask a lot of questions. So she's like, okay, is he your boyfriend? How much money does he make? You know, and like, you know, does he have any debt? You know, what are his degrees? You know, like, I mean, I understand as a parent, I would love to know if my daughter has a boyfriend. I would love to know if my daughter's boyfriend, you know, has a job, does drugs or whatever. I want to ask all these questions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really funny to be on the receiving end as a daughter and then also be a mother, because I am a mother of a 12 and 14-year-old, is to understand when I get it from my mom, I try to receive those questions with love. Okay, mom, I understand where you're coming from. You are afraid of the unknown. You know, you're afraid that I am going to have pain later on in life. And at the same time, I have these burning questions like, how's school today? You know, how did that project go? What did you do in class with that presentation? And then I pull myself back and not necessarily ask the question, even though I'm dying to know, because I try to respect my daughter and her need for space. You know, one of the things that I learned earlier on is when I pick my daughters up from school, I haven't seen her all day. And especially as a single mom, a divorced mom, I only get them 50% of the time. So when I get them, I'm like, yes, my daughter's here. And I want to fire all these questions. So what was it like this weekend at dad's house? Did you see dad's girlfriend? Blah, blah, blah. I have all these burning questions. Or how's school? Who you hang out with at, who are your girlfriends? Who do you sit with at lunch? But I get to take a deep breath and understand that when my daughter goes to school, let's say from 8 to 3 p.m., she might have to wear a social mask, right? She might have to be nice. She might have to say the right thing, do the right thing. She might have to watch her back to see if somebody is backstabbing her. It's like middle school, right? Mean Girls and whatnot, all these things. The first thing she does when she gets inside my car is she's entering a safe space. She gets to take her mask off. She doesn't have to smile for nobody. She doesn't have to talk to nobody. She doesn't have to please nobody. And what a sacred honor and act of unconditional love it is for me to give her that space where she can finally not talk to anyone and not please anyone. And just say something like, hey, so happy to see you. And then just trust that if there's something she wants to tell me, if she wants to tell me about the girl she sat at lunch with, or she wants to talk about her science project, she will talk if she wants to talk. I don't have to force it. I don't have to interrogate her and pull that information out of her. Yeah, so it's really funny. I'm 42 to be receiving the questions from my mom and then holding space for my daughters.
It's like you're tapping the brakes on the other side of life, so you don't interrogate your daughter. Mine's 14 too. I got it. And I think as parents of middle school age daughters, especially, I think one of the hardest things is that you can't take it personally. So when they get in the car, the mask came off, they're themselves. We can't take it personally. Just even though you want to. It's like, why not? I'll tell you one thing, and this has worked for me and maybe other parents as well. I would say to my daughter, I'm not just saying this, she's beautiful. So I would say, like, your hair looks great today. No, it doesn't. What you're wearing, that shirt really looks great. No, it doesn't. And when I reframed it and I said, what's it like to have the best hair in the world? She started opening up and saying, well, it's kind of cool. I take my time and I work on it and I do this but just changing the way I presented it made a big difference. I don't know how. Maybe that would work for other parents. I don't know, but not easy being a parent, even for your mom. Not easy.
No, definitely not. And I want to talk about rejection today as the center of our episode, because as parents, we get a lot of rejection. Hey, do you want to talk? No.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And hey, your hair is beautiful. Not really. You're just saying that because you're my mom.
Right. And rejection goes not even about kids. Even as adults, you're in a relationship. It ended for whatever reason. Maybe you feel rejected. Maybe it wasn't your fault. I mean, it's always a two-way street, but there's some rejection potentially involved in that as well.
Absolutely. And my ego loves taking everything personally. I went through this divorce. I was in a relationship with the best friend of my life for 19 years. And when he chose to no longer be married to me, oh my God, I went through countless dark nights of the soul. I was like, oh my God, I'm so unworthy that no matter how hard I try to change myself, to go to therapy, to fix the relationship, I keep trying and trying and trying. And it feels like a total failure to be rejected by him. And this rejection is like COVID, it's like a virus, right? If he rejects me, then it's very likely that I also reject myself. Oh my God, I'm so unlovable, or I'm so unworthy. All the things that I do, he doesn't appreciate any of that. And whatever I am is so bad, so rotten that he has to abandon me, whatever.
And by the way, I don't mean to cut you off, Winnie, but I just want to share with you 20 years here total in terms of relationship, and the same situation. So please continue. I get it. Totally on your page.
And the thing is, rejection is a kind of separation, right? It's like, okay, this person goes one way and the other person goes the other way. And it's also can potentially be contagious in the sense that, oh, for whatever reason, dad doesn't want to be with mom anymore. So there's this concept of parental alienation, which is, I don't know if you're familiar, but a lot of children feel like, oh, for whatever reason, the parents, they can't talk to each other anymore. And it might also be passing on to the children, where the children also reject their mother or their father and be like, oh, well, there's something wrong with that person and I can't talk to them.
Yep, absolutely. It trickles down. I mean, it just, I hate to say it, but it takes the entire family off the rails of the train that was going what we thought down the track. Okay. You know, and I know it's a cliche, but the one thing that when I realized it, it's not me. It's not, and it's not you. Are we part of the relationship? Yeah, again, it's a two-way street, but that's on the other person. And when you start peeling back their layers, then you realize they have things that they need to work on and heal. And that's probably why the relationship went the way it did. Part of the reason anyway.
So you remember how I have 4 science degree and I love doing analysis and assigning numbers and calculation. So I don't quite have the numbers in front of me, but one day I sat down and it was something like 10 to 20% was my fault. 10 to 20% is his fault. But other factors at play included his parents. It included my parents, right? Because his parents influenced the way he behaved in the relationship, right? It's not his fault that he was not emotionally available, right? And then my parents were also participants or responsible for the divorce, because the way they parented me also affected the way I showed up in the relationship.
Yep.
And then, you know, potentially there could be a third person in you know, and also COVID. I gave COVID a 10% responsibility. And
that's funny. You know, I have to, that's so funny because I'm on the same path, really. It was during COVID that, you know, all that took place. Interesting.
COVID is a great shaker upper for a lot of people, because leading up to COVID, you know, it's like you have your job, you go to school, you go to birthday parties, you go to softball practice, and you just in a routine, right? You go on dates and everything is fine.
Yep.
And then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden you sit face to face with all the conflicts and shadows, right? That's why we do shadow work. Had I done shadow work, then maybe I wouldn't have the divorce. But at that point, I haven't done all the shadow work, and we're literally sitting with each other's shadow. And oh my God, you know, COVID was definitely, I'm putting 10% on that.
I love the way you put that. And, you know, my visual right now, as you're explaining it, it's like the whole family is on a rug. COVID came along and went like this and lifted the rug up. And everybody went, wah, la, 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 la. And how did they land? Well, maybe they didn't land where they should have landed. That's, I think, you know, they didn't land where they were before, for good or for bad. It could have been okay. Maybe it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. And I also actually assigned 10% to my older daughter and 10% to my younger daughter. And this is so not kosher, okay? Because, you know, all the parenting coaches, talk therapists says, okay, make sure that the one thing you tell your kids when you announce the divorce is not their fault, right? Because children also have a tendency to take things personally. So when their parents separate, they tend to think it's 100% their fault.
Yes. Yep.
But the reality, it's not that they are at 0% either. You know, if parents are at 20%, I'm going to, go out of a limb and said, okay, each of them also get 10%, because the reality is so much of the fight between me and my baby's daddy is about parenting, right? Yep. He would be criticizing, okay, you shouldn't have said that to your daughter. We would get angry about the way we parent, we disagree. And so the children were a source of conflict.
Yep.
So yeah.
It's out there, but it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
They were just part of the equation.
Exactly. So it's like, we can't really blame COVID for the divorce, but the COVID was one of the factors that led to the divorce.
And if it didn't lead to the divorce, it was the one, maybe for other people, maybe it was the one thing that kind of stirred the pot, whatever it might have been. But interesting. You think like I do, because I put numbers on things too, like the percentages. How did this all happen? So now that we have rejection, which can also lead to grief, Winnie, how do we deal with that?
Yeah. So the grieving process was very difficult and exhausting.
Yep.
But eventually, I was able to appreciate the gifts of grief. Grief is, the definition is love with nowhere to go, right? So maybe you lost a parent who's returned to heaven, or you lost your best friend or husband, wife, or, yesterday my yoga teacher lost a niece to a hiking accident and she's only 16. So whatever it is, something we really love, and then there was a separation and we feel lost, like this love that we love so much but has nowhere to go.
Interesting.
So for a long time, I dwelled as a victim and I was like, oh my God, he doesn't want me. And I'm so sad. This is my best friend for 19 years and nothing that I do ever mattered, and blah, and blah, and blah. And eventually, I know what the changing moment was. So one day I had a client. Yeah, my clients are my best teacher. He's 83 years old. He's never been married and never had kids. And I was like, wow, I am so blessed to have been married, to have had a best friend for 19 years, to have had a rock, to have had the opportunity of parenting two beautiful teenagers, to have had the experience of pregnancy, breastfeeding, changing diapers. My life is so rich. I wouldn't trade that for anything. And so it was this encounter with this 83-year-old client that helped me realize, wow, to have loved is such a blessing. Even to lose it later, it's better than to come to this earth and to have never loved.
Yep.
And grief is really a gift because it shows us how much we showed up. It shows us how much love we are capable of, right? God, if I lost my best friend and my rock for 19 years and it didn't hurt me, I need to get myself checked. Something is wrong with me. I must be a psychopath, a sociopath or something. Right. But the fact that I'm devastated is part of nature. So this free masterclass that I'm having on Friday is about how do we find the gifts in everything, the gifts in grief, the griefs in anger, denial, fear, unworthiness, drama queen, scarcity survival mindset, taking everybody for granted. Yes, manipulating others for self-gain and shame. There is a gift in everything. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we don't want to dwell in grief or anger or fear. That's not the goal. The goal is to love yourself unconditionally and have so much compassion that you will turn the grief into love. I call this the recycling program, right? So Mother Earth, like trees, they can take carbon dioxide and turn back into oxygen, right? So if we are able to receive the totality of the anger, we can break it down, recycle, and turn it into genuine forgiveness. You know, if we're able to sit with the doubts and the fears, we can decompose like, you know, animal feces and rotten tomatoes, banana peels. When we decompose the waste, we can actually turn into rich soil to grow the next delicious fruit.
Sure. And your relationship, mine, everybody else's that is no longer there. We got something out of it. We learned. No, nothing is perfect. So whatever pieces weren't perfect in those relationships, next time around, and there will be a next time around, you know what you want even more, and you know what you don't want. So it was a, truly a learning experience. And I agree with you, with that 83-year-old man that, he didn't have that feeling to be with somebody, didn't have that feeling to nurture a child and teach a child. So there's, got to look at the positive. I know it's such, historic cliche, but there's so much positive in things. If you look for them, if you're looking for negative, you're going to find negative. It's going to be there.
Exactly. So in any given situation, we can focus on the negative, in which case, where we dedicate our mind, we're going to multiply. Or we can be a hacker or an engineer, whatever you want to call it, just have the discipline, like brushing teeth, right? I'm just going to wake up every day and brush teeth. I'm just going to look at every situation and see the good. It doesn't mean I deny the bad. It just means that I'm going to have so much compassion that the bad will decompose and turn into the rich soil of tomorrow.
I love that analogy. It's so true. And I think you'll agree, when you come out of what you've come out of and you start being positive, you see things that you didn't see before, even when you were in a relationship you thought was actually pretty good. But it's almost like you're on the other side of it. And now you have a different view of things. At least that's what I'm experiencing. And at the same time, in terms of positivity, I walk into a store, people are friendly. Hey, how you doing? Before that, even though I was okay, I thought everything was all right. I didn't feel that. And I think it's just the energy, the positivity that you're putting out there is coming back. And I will say this, really good friend of mine said a long time ago, when I was going through what you were going through, pretty much at the same time, it seems like, habit doesn't equal happiness. So maybe.
Sorry, slow down. Sorry, say it again.
Habit doesn't equal happiness. So you may think, we may think that, hey, every day was okay, we're doing our thing. Were we truly fulfilled? Was it exactly what we wanted? Was it okay? Maybe it was okay, but was it just a habit that you thought you were happy? And you won't know until, and I think things happen for a reason. You see on the other side, maybe there's something greater there, whatever it is. In the beginning, you never believe that. Not for a second, right?
Yeah. So one of the perspectives I adopted is life is a journey. And at any given point of time, I could turn left or I could turn right.
Yep.
And turning left, maybe I go to the beach and where I can go swimming. And turning right, maybe I go to the forest and I go for a hike. Is going to the beach better or worse than going to the forest?
Don't know.
We don't know. Maybe they're both good. Maybe they're both lessons,
yes,
challenges, obstacles, and pleasure to be had in both sides. If I go to the beach, maybe I will see a turtle, or maybe I'll get sunburned. If I go hiking, maybe I will breathe really fresh air, but maybe I'll get a lot of mosquito bites, right? I never know what I'm going to get.
Yep.
And with relationships, maybe I've spent this stretch of my life with a guy who likes to go to the beach, but now he wants to stay at the beach and I want to go into the forest. So I am going to change direction and find another person who likes the forest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that divorce is so hard because we have this idea of till death do us part.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I'm so envious of all of you out there who are in the happily ever after. I'm happy for you.
Agreed. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. I want that for me too. But I also, instead of dwelling in the shame, okay, what did I do wrong? What didn't I do that led to the quote failure of the marriage? I now just look at, hey, some people just know that they like the beach and they stay at the beach forever. Now I'm like, well, I had a good time at the beach and now I'm on to the forest.
And you said the one word that really, when a relationship ends, I think the hardest part, failure. It failed. Whether it was you that failed, somebody else, whatever, it failed. And that's a hard pill to swallow, if you will. So, once you get past that, but I love your masterclass that's coming up at the end of this week, because it's almost like a force field, it's like a shield to shield you to deal with, those certain things. Tell everybody about that again.
Yeah. So the masterclass is called Complete Self-Mastery. How would you like to walk around and make the best out of everything, right? It's kind of like learning Kung Fu, but instead of having to fight off everybody who's trying to, attack you, it's this idea that you are practicing emotional calm Kung Fu, okay, as a kind of cultivation, so that no matter what situation you enter, you are the master of you.
Yeah.
So you know who you are and you know your power, and you can turn everything into something that works out the best for you.
Love it. mindfulhealingheart.com is the website. Winnie, it's always great talking with you. It's interesting as we start talking today that we have interesting parallels and connections, going through the same thing around the same time. And we're all going through something. If somebody says they're not, they're probably not telling the truth. And for that, there is mindfulhealingheart.com. Always a pleasure talking with you. I look forward to getting together sometime soon. And the masterclass, check it out this Friday, right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, Winnie, thanks. Appreciate it.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.